I'm here because I think you're all crazy. That was the words that we heard when in San Francisco in January, when Mr. D. Hawk actually responded to a question that we had posed to him. We wanted to know why he had agreed to come and meet with us. And his response was, "It's because I think you're all crazy." Christer, I have no clue if you're crazy or not. But I'm fairly certain that when the championship comes here, you will be. And if you lose, you may be crazy, but if you win, you will certainly go crazy. I'm not supposed to talk about football, even if I would love to. I'm here to talk about learning culture and how to create a strong and impactful learning culture and how to boost capacity for change. To talk about learning culture is many things, so I will focus on the fundamentals, what is most important, the values, the principles, and the sense of direction. What is the Kaos Pilots? The Kaos Pilot is a polymath approach for fostering leadership and entrepreneurship. It is a hybrid between a business school and a design school. We offer educations that is not so much about pointing out for students where they should be in the future. It's about giving them a chance to co-create their own future. It is about tapping in to their potential and helping them to do good and to do well. It is about finding that spark, that creativity, allowing it to find a direction and support them in going there. That is what the Kaos Pilots is all about. In 1997, all the way since 1997, we have had a tradition that the students, the team of students, go to a creative hotspot somewhere in the world. We call that an outpost. For 3 to 4 months, they go there to conduct and engage in different types of projects. A creative hotspot is a city or a place that undergoes huge changes. And in 1997, that was San Francisco. Why do we do this? Well, if you move from familiar territory, from a context that you know really well, into unfamiliar territory, a lot of things happen. What you take for granted is not there. There are new assumptions, new values, attitudes, norms, and you need to scan and adapt to that really fast. So, the outpost offers us an opportunity to move from our comfort zone into a bit of a stretch zone. On these outposts, we normally also construct a team-wide assignment, something that binds it all together. In San Francisco, we also wanted a client, someone that could put a little weight into the assignment, someone could bring a different type of seriousness in. And one name had emerged. It surfaced the name of D. Hawk. And what we heard sounded fantastic, and we really wanted him on board. There was just one problem. He was not interested. He was not interested at all. He said, "No, not going to do it. If you want to do that one, it's up to you. I'm not in." After some time, he started to come around, and eventually he got on board. I'm not sure if he actually was interested from the beginning, if he was just playing us, or if he truly was uninterested in the beginning. In that classroom, when we first met him, he started out approximately something like this. Kaos Pilots, huh? So, do you know what this is? And he just drew out a Visa card from his pocket and he held it up like this. And he said, "Do you know what this is?" And all of us nodded. Yes, we certainly knew what that one was. Then he said, "Do you know who the CEO of Visa is?" And all of us, no idea. Okay. Do you know where the headquarters is located? No clue. Do you know who owns Visa? No clue. Do you know anyone that actually works in Visa? No, nothing. Okay, so you know that the Visa card you can use to obtain money and pay for stuff and services, but in reality, you know nothing about it. Yes, that's about it. And he said, last year, we had a revenue of $1 zillion billion. And suddenly, the silence landed in the classroom, and he said, I made that one. I made the Visa card. My experience and my knowledge on how you can go about to create massive transformational institutional change is available. Are you interested? That is what you can call a great sales pitch. From that on, we were all in. What does DHOC and Visa have to do with learning culture, you might ask? I will come back a bit more to that later, but first, why learning culture? Why should you care? Why is this important? All organizations, educations as well as companies, have a culture, and all of them focus tremendously much on their structure. They put an enormous effort into making the structure more efficient. Unfortunately, only a fraction of the same effort goes to culture. That means that they lose out on massive opportunities for creativity, innovation, and sheer happiness. The culture can, for you, if you focus on the good learning culture, it can bring forth, according to our experience, a number of benefits. Effectiveness, ethics, engagements, but certainly also creativity, commitment, and community. All of us in organizations have a need to improve, to make things better, to make people come together. There is also a huge desire for it in most organizations, and there is certainly potential in all. We all need to improve. That is our calling, not necessarily because that things are so bad, but because that they can get better. Culture is something that all organizations have. The way we do things around here, what hangs on the wall, so to speak. It is shaped by our history. It is something that tells us the written and unwritten expectations about what is real, what is true, and what is important. Real, true, and important. It affects the way we think, how we feel, and certainly also how we act. If we want to be good and have future success, we need to figure out what are the positive sides of our culture, and also what are the shadows, and how can we go about to change and shape the future. DHOC, when he talked about culture and creativity, he talked about norms, attitudes, methodologies, and practices, everything that is immersed into the Chaos Pilots. And one of the things that we learned was that good culture certainly can support and encourage both individual and collective learning. But how did we detect our values? How did we find those principles? Well, that has to do with what DHOC told us. According to the story, the way I remember it, some years ago, the way I remember it, he was standing in the room and said, when I was a young man, a bit out of coincidence, I ended up to be the director of a branch in a bank somewhere in America. It didn't take long until I was summoned together with other people to assess a fairly new introduced idea, the payment card. There was a general sense of agreement of that the payment card holds a lot of potential, but no one really understood its mechanism. No one really understood how to make it a success, not even what are maybe the challenges around this one. In the meetings, the same consensus appeared, but there was also a certain kind of disagreement of what are the problems? Where do they come from? What are the consequences of these problems? What is, in fact, the nature of these problems? So a young DHOC suggested, eventually, that they would form a task force to address these problems. And you know how these things go. That's a great idea, son, you do it. Suddenly, he had it. He was appointed the leader of the task force, had to assemble a team and start to investigate. What were the scope and range of these problems? Eventually, their conclusion was clear. There were indeed massive problems. They were losing money, big money, fast, and they needed to do something. So his mandate was extended, not only to look into the problems, but to find a solution. What his team did was that they started to deconstruct the process that had led up to that day where they faced all of these challenges, but also to look into the future. What is needed in order to make this a success? Years later, when he reflected on these events, and when he looked upon the success of Visa, he had turned that into a philosophy, a methodology that he now shared with us. And what he said was that normally what happens is that people just start to do stuff. They initiate, execute, praxis. Soon, they start to look for how can we make this better, faster, easier, cheaper. A lot about structure, efficiency. If that does not deliver on the hopes you have, you start to look into the people. Do they have the right skills? Do they have the right competencies? Do we have the right people at all? After a while, you start to ask yourself, do we have the right organizational design? Do we have the right legal setup? What is our business model? Are we in the right business at all? If that is not enough, you go even one step deeper and you start to question, maybe the problem is that we don't believe in the same things. We don't agree upon what is important. We don't share the basic values. Only after that do you ask the most important question, why? What is the purpose? Why do we exist? What did we set out to accomplish? What were we born to be, to become? His findings and experience suggested that you needed to reverse that process. And you need to start to ask yourself, why is this important? What is our purpose? If anything is possible, what should then become? Only when you find agreement on that should you move into the principles and find those general, basic understandings, that belief system that you share and that you think can support that purpose. When that is done, you move into the concept. And in the concept, you start to figure out what is needed in order to harness and really lift these principles. After that, you try to find the people that believe in the same purpose, that share the same convictions, and that can really boost the concept. Then into the structure. How do I make the skills and competence of these people come out in the best possible way? And only then, praxis. That was the findings he shared with us, and that was also the assignment he presented us with. I want you to go through the same process. It was not going to be that easy. Actually, it was quite hard, really hard actually. There was so many ups and downs, back and forth, in and out. 3 step forward, 4 step back. Unfortunately, also when you had gone through the entire circle, it started all over again. A complete renegotiation of what is this all about. Even up till this day, do we use the same methodology and philosophy when we work in projects, and also when we do our own organizational change. So the impact from DHOC's teachings can't be underestimated. Overestimated. When we were done with that process, something had emerged, and something that is important in terms of learning culture. Our purpose is oriented towards growth, and is rooted in learning. As such, in order for us to find the principles, those values that constitutes our learning culture, we started to ask ourselves, what is a great question? What is a great question to really figure out the learning culture? And the question we kicked this off with was, what constitutes a great learning culture? What is needed in order for people to lean in, to share, contribute, engage, and truly take responsibility and lift themselves? The outcome of that exercise eventually turned into be balance, compassion, playful, real world, risk-taking, and streetwise. What is the takeaway from this one? The takeaway is that if you want to create a strong learning culture, an impactful learning culture, you need to figure out where is it going? Why is this important? What is the purpose of it? And what is it that we truly believe that shares that can support that learning culture to come about? All learning cultures are rooted in values. The values may be hidden for us. They may be undetected, but they are certainly there. They can be in our practices, they can be in our structure, they can be in our curriculum, but they are there. In order to create this learning culture, you need to uncover them. You need to figure out what they are. You need to figure out how to live with them, navigate, and also how to challenge them, how to question them, and sometimes go about and change them. Sometimes you need to be a bit crazy if you want to move the world to a better place. You need to be a bit crazy if you want to create new futures and if you want to impact the status quo. That's just how it is. If you want progress and innovation, you may have to stay a bit crazy from time to time. Life and culture goes hand in hand. And if you want a great culture, you need to nurture it. Someone said that life is an education. Well, certainly education should also be life. Thank you so much. Take good care.